If you've been keeping up with the news, then you probably know that there's been huge protests in Venezuela. The gist of the story is that they had elections which were aggressively rigged. They were so rigged that the government just made up the number 51.2% for President Maduro and then multiplied that by the voter count to figure out how many votes he would have gotten. Not a good look. So people got pissed off and started protesting. They also had an alternate account of the election which showed that the opposition candidate Edmundo Gonzalez actually got twice as many votes as Maduro. Again, not a good look. So how did Venezuela get here? The short answer is that Venezuela has gotten much poorer over the past decade. Its GDP has declined by 70% since 2013. That means that the average person has lost over 2/3 of their previous income. Furthermore, the country was wrecked by hyperinflation with prices increasing at a rate of 1,000,000% in 2018. And if you don't trust those numbers, just note the fact that over 6 million people have left Venezuela in recent years. That's over 20% of its current population. So how do we get all of that? For this, we'll need a longer answer that will take us back to the 1970s when Venezuela was actually the richest country in South America. They had more oil per capita than even Saudi Arabia. The country was doing well, but the oil money was mostly going to elites and inequality was rampant. This was alright for a bit when times were quote-unquote good, but there was a significant drop in oil prices in the 80s. This meant that the budget had to be cut and the Venezuelan government could no longer afford to subsidize goods for the masses. And people got pissed off. They started protesting and rioting and clashing with the police, and a lot of people died. The government got away with killing the protesters and started to chill again. That was until 1992 when a young military officer by the name of Hugo Chavez organized a coup against the government. And failed. Chavez was not able to overthrow the government, but he was able to give a fiery speech on TV focusing on the country's social issues. He was imprisoned, but soon came out and eventually won the presidency in a pretty fair election in 1999. This marks the beginning of a new era in Venezuelan politics. Chavez was a socialist, but even more so, he was a showman. On the one hand, he wanted to take control of the country's big oil company, but on the other hand, he wanted to do this on TV. He went on air and just started reading out from a list and firing people. Hope that reminds you of somebody. Anyway, as time went on, Chavez spent a bunch of money in social programs and nationalized a lot of stuff. This made him mostly popular. Even so, there was a lot of opposition, including an attempt at a coup against Chavez and even a recall referendum, meaning a vote to recall him from the presidency. Chavez survived both and then created a list of people who wanted to get rid of him. It was a list of 3 million people. These guys would be denied jobs, loans, contracts, and more. The government basically decided to make their lives miserable. But time passed and Chavez eventually died in 2013, still as a fairly popular leader. The torch was passed to his vice president Nicolas Maduro, and soon enough, the system Chavez had created began to implode. And really, this happened because of oil prices. Similarly to what happened from the 70s to the 80s, starting from 2014 to 2016, oil prices began a huge fall from around $100 to a low of $30. This created huge problems for Venezuela, which had depended on oil revenue to keep up its social programs. So Maduro did what any self-respecting dictator would do. He started printing money and blaming everything bad on the US. This is a graph of their money supply from 2014 to 2018. Yes, it actually increased tenfold. Really not sure what they were doing. All of this was coupled with a degradation of Venezuelan institutions, the destruction of the court system, and democracy. As a result, economic conditions worsened a lot, with people joking that the country had gone on a Maduro diet. This was in reference to the huge weight loss in the country due to a lack of food. This then incentivized most well-educated and high-skilled workers to flee the country. As we said above, over 6 million people left Venezuela, and this, in turn, made everything even worse. Immigration is usually a sign that you're not running things correctly, like there was a reason why East Germany had to build a wall to keep people in. Likewise, the immigration of high-skilled individuals mean that you undergo a massive brain drain. So things kept deteriorating, so much so that the government basically decided to strip the National Assembly, i.e. their version of Congress or Parliament, of power because they had lost the elections there. People kept protesting and the government just managed to keep maintaining power because, well, they had guns. And that's where we are today as well. The Venezuelan government is illegitimate, has lost the election with a huge margin, but so far, the guns mean that they might never leave power. This video was made possible with help from the University of Georgia, bringing quality education to Georgia and beyond.